I see now why there has been such a concerted effort to say Latricia is shy, Latricia is modest, Latricia don't really get down like that. And that is because this has been made as the compromise when it comes to Carlos introducing her on the show as a woman with a scarlet letter. Okay. Personally, I ain't got a problem with scarlet. In fact, my favorite color red is crimson, nice and bloody. But from Ken to Martell to Marquise, Carlos has introduced you as a woman who hops from man to man to man, and you agreed to that in a way that gives you such a scarlet letter that they had to formulate a storyline around you being quiet and shy and meek and you guys, let's get into it. Hey y'all, it's Uppity Unicorn, and I am so happy to be back here with you. We are talking love and marriage Huntsville, specifically how Carlos King set Latricia up to fail. Now, I said in a previous video that when she lost her parents and her sister and went through that dark night of the soul experience, from that she will always have a level of respect from me and a level of respect from anyone really who has buried an immediate family member. Not an uncle, not somebody a generation removed, not a grandmother, but like a sibling, a child, a parent, okay? However, you let Carlos set you up to fail. You were brought into this show via Martell. You going over to his house, you stumbling over your words to try to create a storyline. Like, you look like a liar. And here's why you look like a liar, Latricia. Like the video. The first time you were asked about knowing Martell, what happened with Martell. Martell was at the bowling alley. Well, what does she say? Like, I'm not going to tell y'all, like, I'm trying to, find a consistent story with whatever she says, because I don't want to say too much. And that happened in front of Ken. And so when Stormy comes back and says, well, y'all look like y'all know each other, like in the biblical sense. You sat there and you said, or when Stormy said, oh, he said you've been to the house. You were like, no, I've never been to the house. No, I never went to the house. And then you sat there with Ken and you gave him this long excuse. I thought I never went to the house, but then I thought about it and I was like, oh, wait, I must have forgot if it was the gym or the house, the gym or the house, the gym or the house. I guess we never made it to the gym because I went to his house. And this was before Ken, so we're talking 4 years ago when he was still married. So basically you went up in Mel's house is what you did. You went up in Mel's house and you didn't go once because Martell said she came to the house a few times. And even though Martell is nasty with the lying and gaslighting, he told a straight story. You didn't. So you look like I'm sister married in Martell's house with Ken, still with Marquise. And so this comes to a head when you guys are on this girls' trip and you are sitting at the other head of the table, right? You guys, please pay attention to the seating chart. You are sitting at the other head of the table. On one side, you have Mel at the head of the table. At the other side of the table, you have Trisha at the head of the table. And it's because they wanted to use this moment to humiliate Mel. You allowed Carlos to set you up in a place where you thought you were going to humiliate Mel. And the only time I've ever seen you in a scene with Mel, which was at the Cowardly Lion, the Care Bear, Nell, at Nell's birthday party. And you looked upside her head because she asked you, do you think you're really done with your marriage? And the thing is, everyone was asking you that. Everyone was asking you about her marriage, but you looked at her like you wanted an issue. And then you ran back to Martell like, yeah, and she was grilling me and saying this and saying that. And like you were mad. When in reality, Latricia, you don't have a reason to be mad at Mel unless you're coming, behind Martell, like unless there's something going on with you and Martell. You have no reason to be mad. Mel asked you what everyone else on the show has asked you. You have explained repeatedly, you and Ken, about being separated, about still being married, about being 6 years separated, about, whatever, Ken moving in, and how you hadn't told your sisters and how you hadn't told this person, and how like you have a messy story. You know what your story reminds me of? It reminds me of all the explaining that Sonny and Moses have had to do. And part of the reason they've had to do all that explaining is because everyone kept asking them. And the thing is, they're not shooting an attitude at anyone asking them a question. Anytime somebody asks them about, well, what's with the throuple? What's with the love triangle between you and Destiny? That Sonny tells the same story every time. Now Moses can't, and that gives us some pause. But that Sonny gives you the same set of details every time. She takes each and every opportunity to explain herself and her union because she wants it to be respected. You, on the other hand, have not told a straight story yet. You haven't told a straight story yet. Not about how you dealt with Martell, not about how you came together with, like none of it. So all this culminates into the moment where you're at the head of the table, the other head of the table, the anti-head of the table, right? Mel is on one part, you are on the other. And you're telling the group, oh, well, it never went that far with Martell. And what you're implying here, like the implications here, I should say, based on the way that you said it, and I'm really sorry that my phone is going off here, is that maybe y'all did kiss and rub and touch. And, what did Chris Brown say? Kiss and rub and touch it. So y'all did something, y'all just didn't do penetration. And you let that cat out of the bag with the language that you chose to use. Okay. Anybody who's not familiar or doesn't remember, go on ahead and go watch the trailer that has just been released. You let that cat out of the bag with the words that you chose. And you get this moment where Mel walks away from the table, and that's what everybody was wanting all along. They wanted to see Mel react. Now, Mel didn't react in the way that Latricia would. Latricia would give you a big boo-hoo and a big dramatic, I'm so hurt and I can't control myself. Mel gave you more of a, this bitch was up in my house while I was married more than once and is now at my table, literally eating at my table, literally, physically, and figuratively at my table on my show, whatever. You're trash. From Trisha to Trasha. That's what she gave you. She gave you, how Mel, every time she says something, I mean, I don't think that was the response anyone was looking for. I think people were looking to have Mel broken. People are upset that Coleslaw can't come on the show and do whatever you guys think that woman is going to do to Mel. I mean, she can't barely talk. She can't barely clap back. If she does, it takes her a while to type it out. The woman's not quick on her feet. She's not witty. She looks like she's got alcohol fetal syndrome. Like, I don't know what people think Ariane would be capable of doing or saying to that witty, smart, on top of it Mel, who was in the right. But Latricia, you let somebody use you as the next best option. You let someone use you as the stand-in for coleslaw. Well, since I couldn't get her on the show, let me get this woman on the show who was all up and through Mel's marital home. And so you sat there and you lied when you said, oh, it was 4 years ago and it was before Ken. And everyone said, oh, that's when Martell was still married. You were like, no, he wasn't married. So you have already lied so much on the show. No, he wasn't married. No, I never went to his house. Oh, I did go to his house. Oh, we never, like, you haven't been able to tell a straight story. And so when they try to fluff you up with all of that modesty and she doesn't get down like that, I remember Ken said something to Latricia on the couch like, well, everybody has a past. Quickly, the quickest I've ever seen her respond to somebody. She says, well, I don't. And she's so quick to want you to let people know her whole facts. Like, nah, I don't have a past because I was 18 when I got with Marquise. I was 18 and we got these two kids together and we've been married and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't like, playing purity politics. Playing purity politics. I don't do all that. I got a low body count type deal. But it doesn't look good. And it's sad that you let Carlos introduce you to the show that way. Because even with all the purity politics you've played, you're obviously not that person because we have access to both of your Instagram accounts. Personally, I'm not much of a slut shamer. I mean, sometimes it depends on the situation and the context, but by and large, I'm what do they call it? Pro-ho? Like I don't see nothing wrong with the hoes. The men do it, like whatever. I don't care. I don't have those sensitivities. But you're playing a purity game. And you're not exactly dressed like a Mormon or a Muslim on your profiles. It doesn't exactly look like you have all of those sensitivities you claim to have. And your character breaks down when you go from tight-teethed, I can't move my jaw when I speak, to hollering across the table at Nell, and to being full frontal, mouth open and agape and wide when you're in the gym with Martell telling him how big his shoulders are. And for those of you who don't know, when a woman compliments a man, she's like, well, you got to roll your shoulders back. You got those great big shoulders. It's like, okay, ma'am, that's flirting. That's acknowledging that you like his physique, because big shoulders are supposed to be something nice on a man. And as much as big breasts are supposed to be something nice on a woman, or a big derriere is supposed to be something nice on a woman. So we hadn't seen you open your teeth in any scenes with Ken. And then all of a sudden you got big mouth and a lot to say in this gym with Martell. It gives we're more than familiar. There are 100 different ways that you could have come on this show. You actually could have just been Destiny's trainer. But with the way that Martell sat down and pretended like he didn't know you, with the way that he came back around and said, oh, that was Montez's friend, with the way that he came back around and said, well, she looked different. She didn't lift all them weights back then. This is years ago. Of course, I don't remember that girl. Well, she came to the house a few times. Not once, like you tried to explain to Ken, but a few times. You came to the house a few times and didn't do nothing? Why is Martell making it seem like he tossed you up? And here's the deal. I think Martell will lie about a lot of things, but I don't think Martell would lie on his D. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think he's the type of person who would be like, yeah, I hit that Kenya Moore chick when he knows he didn't. Yeah, I slid through, Nene Leaks, I blah, blah, blah. Like he's not that kind of liar. That's not where he lies, because he gets so much on that crusty, dusty thing. He's swimming through so many women that's not a front he would ever have to put up. You, on the other hand, have had so many scenes where you haven't told a cohesive story and where you have blatantly lied, culminating in the situation with the group where you are head to head at a table with Melody and you have to say, well, I never slept with him. It never went that far. That's what you said. You didn't say, oh, we were just friends, the way Destiny would say. You said, well, it never went that far. So whatever else you did in her house, whether that is kissing, rubbing, touching, petting, sucking, oral, whatever else it is, it never resulted, according to you, in penetrative intimacy, or lower half penetrative, I should say. I'm trying to be really careful with my language because we are on YouTube and we just don't want to do too much here. We want to keep this PG. So as you go, Latricia, just so you know, your origin story means everything. And you're not just being introduced to Love and Marriage Huntsville, you're being introduced to reality TV. So even if you were to pop up on Rohop or Atlanta, you were always going to be the chick who was in Mel's house while she was married. All up and through Mel and Martell's home with Martell more than once. You let Carlos do that to you. And just as a word of advice to all women, be careful of your origin story and pay attention to other people's origin stories. Okay? Because you can never escape what your origin story was. They had that guy in the Bible called Paul, okay, where he wrote these epistles and things to the church at Antioch and the church at the whatever. But everyone knows that Paul was Saul before he was Paul. They all know he was Saul of Tarsus, who used to burn them Christians alive before he became this Paul, okay? They all know this. So of all the ways you could have come on this show, like, you will forever be fighting the Scarlet letter. You will forever be going above and beyond to prove that you're not a Scarlet woman. Because this is your introduction. I'm saying this because, and sisters, y'all are letting Carlos play in your face. I think this is an insensitive way to introduce someone to a show. Whenever you are on a show and you get introduced as a side chick, the ink is dried, the pen is lifted, the book is done. What's been written has been written and it's been read. Just, you can't do anything to escape it. Whereas if you look at the core six, right? Because now we're learning about Latricia and some guy named Isaiah. Now we're learning about Martell is like, we used to F girls together, Marceau, and Latricia, you used to F my boy Isaiah. Isaiah. And there are all kinds of shout out to Empress Radio who pulled those receipts that said, oh my gosh, this woman Latricia who is on this show is dead ass at the house effing with my brother. This is crazy. And she's musty and she's and that thing, that thing got a twang. That thing don't even smell sound. And what's crazy about that rumor is that there was a rumor previously that Marceau had green chunky discharge, green chunky, whatever, emissions. So that is indicative of someone catching an STI, and it would make sense for why a couple would break up and then start playing with other people. That would make sense if Latricia stepped out of her marriage, right? Because it's like, if you bring home an STD, like you got one, I got one. I'm finna get one off because you messed up. And how far is that from the truth when you have, shout out to Empress Radio again, where you have the receipt where Marceau was like, I hired a PI to follow Latricia around. He said from his drunken mouth, which speaks a sober thought, I hired a private investigator to follow her around because she's Bacteria. She won't take cheating lying down. And even though they will say to our faces, oh, we've never had infidelity in our marriage, Marcel has also gone on screen and told you, Martell, I was in the same situation as you. I just chose to keep my marriage. I refuse to have a divorce. So even with all the lying they do, they leak enough to tell what their full story is. And thanks to some of these people online who are just like, yo, I'm watching the show. The girl at my house is Latricia from the show. She musty. I smell that she's musty. And my brother said that thing got a twang. But she's nice. And I'm laughing, y'all. And let me be very, very effing clear. I'm laughing because I feel like this is Kiki's revenge. And I will never not tip up a cup and laugh at a good woman's revenge. I will never not. I will cackle like a witch in black with a cat and a broom every single time. Now, if it wasn't so, I might not take it this way if this wasn't the context. But when I begin to think about all the things that Latricia said on that reunion about Kiki, about how she stole money from a drug dealer to pay him with his own drug money so she could get her drugs, said that out loud in earshot of that man so he could come and unalive Kiki for what she'd done. When I think about her saying, no, you and Amin were cheating on each other and you were paying for dates with Amin and other women, not true. She just jacked up the context of that wholeheartedly, intentionally. And Kiki sat there and said, and your point is... And Kiki still fell back and did not tell that full story. And something tells me that ate Kiki up inside to hold her cousin's privacy. Because y'all remember that moment where she said, and Marceau, when Marceau, and he's like, do it, I'll tear this whole thing down, do it. Whatever that story was, she took that story to the grave. Literally. And she was willing to hide Latricia in places where Latricia was not willing to hide her. You understand? So when Kiki was at that slumber party with Mel, she said, well, this wasn't the first time questions of infidelity had come up. She didn't just say, hey, they cheating on each other. Mel asked Kiki a question, is this the first time? Because she's out here saying, I'm trying to destroy her marriage. Is this the first time that infidelity or accusations or inquiries about infidelity have come up? And Kiki's like, no, this is not the first time the questions have come up. She didn't say he did it. Quiet as it's kept, he told on himself in the scene when she was like, and Marceau, and when Marceau, y'all, there are people, there are people who know things, who don't say things. And I just love those bloggers, and I love their journalistic integrity, even when they don't consider themselves journalists, because they know things that would blow your minds about that. And when Marceau scene and all of what could have been said that Kiki decided to take to the grave. So when I look at this, and I look at Martell name dropping Isaiah. Somebody say losing Isaiah. Remember Halle Berry was in that movie on Crackling. The ghetto jam is about to slam. Outside of that store getting arrested all up on the pavement and whatnot. When I think of what you did to Kiki and Amin, my soul says yes. My soul says yes. Drop the names. Martell, Labor, Holt. Go off, Labor. So I am enjoying myself. when I think of all the ways that Latricia and Marceau, I mean, MVP. Maybe two people, only the two people who are in the marriage can destroy the marriage. But if you were talking a team effort, MVP were Scott's 1.0. The way they would facilitate car maintenance for Ariane, and renting bills and laundering money allegedly through Skolt to make it look like Mel's money was being spent on things that it was not. These matching Mercedes or whatever, matching BMWs as it were, between Martell and Ariane, and the way that we saw her flexing for the gram with all these lofty, lovely things, living a high life off of Mel's money. And the way Latricia would salivate like she was hungry, like she was satisfied, like tearing Mel's life apart was tantalizing to her. Who's Isaiah? Martell, who's Isaiah? Latricia, who's Isaiah? Who is Isaiah? I'm chilling. With all the ways, with no proof, she was ready and willing to run with Mel is out here with these guys and Mel is cheating on her husband and she's blah, 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 with no proof. Martell is a liar, but I can tell when Martell is telling on somebody. Does that make sense? Because he's a liar and he makes up stuff, but he's such a child. He's such a man child that you can tell when Mom, Marceau hit me. Mom, I'm telling, blah, blah. You know how like Marceau does it when he says, Kimmy, she threw water on Tisha. You know, they do that, mommy, I'm telling. That mommy, I'm telling is very different from the lie. It comes out very different if you have discernment. And he's telling on y'all. So I don't know why you people keep proceeding to make yourself part of the anti-Melody crew. But if you're actually watching the show, please understand that when you come on the show through that side, you look like the Scotts. Part of the reason people were able to give the Fletchers a break and eventually get turned off from the Fletchers because their entry upon the show was not sullied by I'm a side chick and I hate Mel and I'm pro the dissolution of her marriage. Part of the reason Stormy had people liking her at first is because that's not how she got onto the show. Kiki had a majority of the online millimeters in her corner because she did not enter the show that way. But you people who keep entering the show, see, Boom Boom Belinda was smart. Boom Boom Belinda could have been you, Latricia, with her beautiful self. That's why we call her Boom Boom, because that body goes boom. Boom Boom Belinda could have been on the show just like you, talking about how we saw Martell all up and through her house for the gram, cooking for her, whatever it is. The footage is out there, honey. She could have been on the show. She was hanging out with Destiny and everything, just like you are. She could have been in your position, but she's just like, I don't need this for my reputation and I don't want this for my reputation. You're not going to bring me onto the show as a woman, because Belinda has made social media comments where she's like, and another thing, and if you were a side chick, close your mouth and play your part, is what she wrote. I don't remember on what channel I saw it on, but I saw it. I synced. Diana Rose. Shout out to her because I synced it in the name of Moses, honey. Moses. I synced it. I synced it with my own eyes. And so she could have had your story page by page, paragraph by paragraph, word by word, down to the punctuation. She said no and she got lost. She skedaddled. She scrammed out of there. This is not going to be the way the public is introduced to me, because you cannot shake it. Latricia, you played yourself. This narrative of you being all up and through Mel's house during her marriage, more than once, while you were married, just before you got with Ken, You can't shake it. I don't know what they're paying you, but I hope it was worth it, because that reputation is going to follow you for as long as you are on TV. And the killing part is you don't need that, because you're actually dope in other ways to me, with your working out, with the way that you've pulled through your PTSD, with the way that you have X, Y, and Z. But for name and fame and acclaim, whatever it is, you let Carlos give you a nasty story and introduce you to this audience in a nasty way. You have been introduced to Love and Marriage Huntsville as part of the dissolution of Melody's marriage. Like that's your role. Like let's say there's the play. We're doing a Shakespeare play. We got Romeo, we got Juliet, we got Lady Capulet, we got Sir Capulet, we got Lady Montague, Sir Montague, and the lady who plays the part of ruining Mel's marriage. That's your role. That's how you got there. So it doesn't matter how much you train Destiny. And by the way, you have her looking a lot better in her clothes. It doesn't matter if you get married on the show like Kimmy did and you married Ken, you're always going to have that scarlet letter. You let Carlos tell that story for you, the story that wasn't worth it for Boom Boom Belinda. I hope it was worth it for you. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video. Grab yourself a timestamp and have a conversation with me. The GoFundMe link is in my description box below. Anything helps. I am Uppity, and I am out of here.